Before we begin today's episode, I want to share a little context for you for what you're about to hear or see. This is the second episode in my At the Threshold series where I'm reflecting in real time on what this season of life is bringing up for me as I prepare for my daughter's wedding. And what surprised me the most was this: I didn't expect grief to show up here, not in a moment that's meant to be so joyful. But what I'm learning is that grief doesn't always look the way we think it will. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's layered, sometimes it shows up right alongside love, pride, and gratitude. So, for this episode, I've pulled together a few moments from past conversations, each one offering a different perspective on grief, identity, and what we carry. These episodes were really important to me as I went into this event. And as you listen, I invite you to notice what resonates with you, what feels familiar, and what might be asking for your attention. I hope you'll find it helpful when you go into your own events. I will also be providing transitions for each of the clips so you understand what I saw there and how it related to my event. Here you go. So, as I mentioned, what surprised me first was realizing that joy and grief can exist at the same time. And I think Michele did an amazing job of really articulating what that's about. Definitely can see the shift of, you know, the role. I think there's always been the shift going on of mom with an adult child, and then now that she's going to be starting her own real life, quote, real life with a partner, like a committed relationship. And I can, someone told me, oh, there's grief involved with that. And I went, I'm not feeling it yet.
Yeah, that's very real, Yolanda. Number one,
Mhm.
congratulations. This is a beautiful moment in your life, in your daughter's life, but it is real, and you will and are having a real experience within yourself
Mhm.
as you watch this beautiful moment unfold. And it can be beautiful and it can be hard all at the same time. And I think as women,
Yeah,
we have to understand our capacity for holding the both and. It doesn't have to be one thing or the other, and we shouldn't judge ourselves about how we feel in a moment, but to give ourselves some grace and to be with ourselves and to hold
absolutely.
ourselves lovingly and tenderly. Yeah.
You know, when you and I spoke before, I mentioned to you how much I enjoyed the Francis Weller book.
Hmm.
And my key takeaway from that book was you can't have, you have to have both. You have to have grief so that you can embrace the beauty and you can embrace, and have gratitude that they are linked together. Because if you just have one, then you're not living in reality, like they go together.
Yeah.
They
They
absolutely go together.
they
When you're
absolutely do. I think that's just so beautiful that you pulled that bit out because it is so, so, so true. They go together. We don't have to separate the two. We can hold space for both.
Yeah. So the love I have for my daughter and giving that away,
Mhm.
the two of those things together, I can just definitely see how um, they collide. I think you used the word, right? You said something about love colliding with change.
Yes, that is my definition of midlife grief. I think it's love colliding with change. It's a grief that often goes unnamed, right? We don't talk about these feelings enough. Um, and it holds these hidden losses. And it's so important that we allow those hidden losses, those secondary losses, as they're often called, to surface and to give them breath to speak and be acknowledged. And so, I look back at my own certification as a grief-informed professional, and we spent a good deal of time looking at those hidden secondary losses. They're that important. Like the grief of being less needed, or we feel that we're becoming less needed, as perhaps example, mothers empty nesting, or mothers on the verge of watching a child walk down the aisle and saying I do and starting that chapter of their life. The grief of not knowing who we are outside of our roles, the roles that we've been living for years and years and years, the grief of dreams we've postponed, all of it. These aren't considered primary losses. No one has passed away, for example. And yet we feel that something almost seismic has shifted,
Mm.
a role, a routine, a relationship dynamic, a purpose we once lived inside of, yet there is loss. And we are so often conditioned as women to suppress that loss, box it away, hold quietly.
And here's another thing that I'm learning, that some of what we're feeling didn't start with us. And here's another Michelle's take on ancestral grief.
When I could see it, which is what's so beautiful about ancestral healing, and it's the only branch of all of healing that allows you to see the unconscious turn to conscious. You can actually
Mhm.
see the patterns, the vows that you have moved out of loyalty to your family that have been keeping you looping certain things.
Mm,
So you'll see women that create a lot of success but aren't able to hold it. They'll call in a lot of money, but for some reason they can't hold it. They're repeating a lot of patterns. Or maybe there's ancestors in their lineage that want to be honored, that want to process certain emotions and certain loops, because they're all seeking to complete their ending through you, through your expansion and evolution. But sometimes, because the subconscious can become loyal to a family vow, it'll repeat certain patterns until you're able to break the pattern for yourself
yeah.
and for your lineage.
Yeah. Andrea, who's been on the show several times, really helps us with reframing things. She does a brilliant job here explaining NCR, name, claim, and reframe. I found it a way to begin to understand what's really happening when these emotions have come up for me. I hope you find it helpful.
What NCR is, what name
Yeah.
claim, and just so people know where we're going here, because it's so name claim and reframe is a three-part system that helps you respond to life instead of react to it. So you name your emotional triggers so you can respond instead of react.
Yeah.
You claim resonant core beliefs, core values that will help you to really be in integrity with yourself. So the actions really line up with your core beliefs. And then you reframe your mindset. When you reframe your mindset, you're able to check your ego at the door and see the situation from a different perspective.
Yeah.
When you have a conflict with somebody, if you're seeing it, if you don't allow yourself to see it from a different perspective by checking your ego at the door, you really can't expand your thinking.
Yeah.
And reframing, which is a big thing that I do, I've expanded my reframe in seeing things a different way. And that when someone is struggling and they're angry and they're reactive, that's not about me. That's about their fear. So
Mhm.
it's not personal, even though it feels personal when it's a member of your family and they're um,
Yeah.
assassinating your character or saying things that are really hurtful. That says more about them than it does about you.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about healing, I think healing, is something that is a lifelong practice.
Mm.
I just when you think you are healed, something will happen and you will be triggered to, react like a 12-year-old. And I mean, sometimes I think, oh, for goodness sakes, Andrea, You've written 2 books, for goodness sake. Is this really how you want to show up? I mean, most of the time I catch myself before, what's in my head. If you think it, nobody can see it. So again, silence is your friend. Take a deep breath, and then I think, okay, who do I want to be? And sometimes it's even saying, you know what? I don't think this is a good time to discuss this. We're both emotional. Let's come back to this topic when
Yeah.
everybody's not so heated.
Yeah.
And I always say, and this, I stole this from one of my dearest friends, and I love you. No matter what, I love you, but I'm going to go now.
This clip from Alaina is just amazing about understanding what is underneath all of our emotions sometimes, and a deeper question about worth. Hit me right between the eyes. Here you go.
And the paragraph says, the beauty of this realization is that your passions offer unending opportunities to make a difference. Beyond this, you'll enjoy an identity through them that can't be stripped away by outside forces or overshadowed by material possessions. Regardless of your circumstances or relationships, your passions represent the essence of who you are in a way that doesn't depend on others for validation. Therefore, owning your passions makes you less reliant on the opinions and influences of people who have not lived your life. While you may respect others' input, no one is in a better position to make decisions about your life than you. And understanding your passions is key to doing that well. Developing passion mastery empowers you to embrace, celebrate, and exhibit the very best version of yourself without apology, shame, or fear of failure. Remembering that could literally save your life.
In this last clip from Mel Robbins' book, Let Them, maybe I can begin to see that in the moment, I'm learning to release what was never mine to control. Let them theory is a proven method that Mel states teaches how to protect our time and energy and focus on what really matters to us. She thinks we've spent too long chasing approval, managing other people's happiness, and letting their opinions hold us back. Mel wants us to stop giving our power away and start creating a life where we come first, our dreams, goals, and happiness. The theory even transforms the lives of those around us. It's about freedom. What I love about the book was its simplicity. The 2 words, let them. And what does that look like? She uses this example. Imagine you're at work and your colleague is in a bad mood. Never happened to me. Instead of letting their negativity affect you, just say, let them. What I'm sitting with after listening to these moments is this: grief isn't something to fix. It's something to notice, to feel, and to learn from. Because underneath it is often love. Love that didn't get a place to go to, or parts of us that are still asking to be seen. If I were to leave you with 3 things to take away from these episodes, they would be these. 1, grief doesn't only show up in loss, it also shows up in change, in shifting roles, evolving identities, and moments we didn't expect. 2, not all grief is ours alone. Some of what we carry comes from family patterns, inherited experiences, and stories that were never fully processed. And 3, we don't have to hold on to everything. When we begin to question our thoughts, to name what we're feeling, and to release what isn't ours, we create space. Space for compassion, space for clarity, space to choose how we want to show up. And for next week, I'll share what actually happens and what I learned walking through this experience in real time. I'll see you there. Bye.